Story 1. My wife said she'd frame me for something after I discovered her affair. So I installed cameras that exposed her lies and helped me win everything in the divorce a few days ago. My kids found a little bunny and brought it home, and they were begging us to keep it. But we can't keep a wild rabbit and already have several pets. The bunny was big enough to fend for itself, and I tried to nicely tell my kids that it needs to go back home to its family. They were sad but agreed to take it back. However, I was busy with work and couldn't go with them. So I told my wife to take the bunny to some thorn bushes at the end of the property and let it go there because that's the safest place to do it. We live in a country area ripe with predators. Well, I went back to work, but a little while later, my kids came running back into the house loudly crying, with my wife trailing after and trying to calm them down and tell them it's not so bad. I asked what happened, and my elder said that Mama made them let the bunny go in the middle of the yard, and a hawk took it. They even described the poor bunny's screams. I was mortified and then angry at my wife for not letting it go the way I'd advised. She defended herself and said it was just a bunny, the kids will get over it, but I said that was absolutely wrong and I warned her of predators, and now our kids had to see that poor bunny get carried away by a hawk. Both of our kids shut themselves in their rooms and stopped talking to their mother for days, and when she tries to talk to them, they call her the Bunny K. I have tried to mediate, but my kids are still mad, and I'm still mad at my wife for how things went down. She's angry with me for not having her back and said, his husband and wife, we always supposed to support one another. But we got into an argument where I pointed out numerous times she has not had my back. She started crying too and has gone off to our room to pout. I'm thinking I screwed up now, so a friend told me to ask here. Edit. Yes, I understand hawks need to eat too, and they are all over our area. I just didn't want my kids to see something so young. They are 4 and 5 years old. I grew up a country boy, and my wife was a city girl. When I was growing up, any similar situation with a wild critter that was caught, we try to let go in a place where it'd have a fighting chance. Edit 2. I did not yell at my wife. Where exactly in my post does it say I did that? I admonished her, yes, but I didn't yell, not even when we argued later on. We did that in whispers so the kids wouldn't hear us. And I couldn't go with them to release the bunny because I couldn't get away from my office. I work from home half the week and have to be near the phone at all times to answer a call while on the clock, unless on my lunch break. I also never once called my wife the BK nickname our kids are calling her after what happened with the bunny, and I've tried to make them stop. I will not call my wife such a thing. It's degrading and I'd be acting like a bully. Edit 3. Apologies for so many edits, but my children were not playing in the yard unsupervised. My wife is a stay-at-home mom and was with them when they found the bunny. They came running back to the house with it, and I had to tell them it needed to be let go. Edit 4. I can't believe I'm having to make another edit, but people keep pointing something out. No, this wasn't copied from some online video. I've not seen said video, but I don't doubt it exists. But hawks take small animals all the time, so is it really so surprising that this situation would happen to some people other than those who recorded a video of the same kind of situation? I certainly don't think so. And my property is almost entirely grassy flatland, save for the house and one tree. I own 4 acres. The grass was last mowed on Sunday, so it was pretty short. That poor bunny may as well have had a target on its back because hawks are circling the area all the time. I've been battling hawks since I was a kid, guarding baby chicks with my old pellet gun. Little bunnies are practically one of their favorite things to grab, hence me telling my wife to let the bunny go in the bushes. Edit 5. I am so damn sick and tired of people saying hawks got to eat too or circle of life or UDA for defying nature. When I was a kid, I had to protect animals from hawks for my grandparents. Farmers have a right to protect their animals from predators too. We weren't just going to let the hawks come in and take all the baby chicks they wanted, which they would have done daily. Yes, I was out there with a pellet gun, but that only deterred the hawks more than anything. I never actually shot one down. Oh yes, I hit a few, but barely. All it ever did was make them turn tail and fly away, and I haven't shot at a hawk in 25 years. I never enjoyed shooting anything alive. My grandpa was the one out there with real guns taking down hawks and coyotes, but I grew up intimately familiar with hawks taking small animals. Hawks have no problem finding food all over our area, but they are opportunists, as are most predators, hence why I wanted to let the bunny go in the bushes. But as I say it in a prior edit, I could not leave my desk, which so many people still don't seem to understand or did not bother to read. Update. Not sure if this is the right place, but I can't think of anywhere else to post this. For those who remember me, I'm the guy whose wife made our kids release a wild bunny in the middle of the yard after I advised her to have the kids take it to the bushes to release it safely. A hawk took the bunny right in front of both of our children, 4 and 5 years old at the time, and they freaked out on their mother, then came running back to me in tears. Our kids started calling their mother the Bunny Slaughter. That name seems appropriate now, and other people called her that as well after her affair got out. What happened with that poor bunny is ancient history compared to what I have to tell now. I'm speaking as a free man after finishing divorce a couple of months ago. This is going to be pretty long and complicated, so buckle up. Edit. AP stands for a fair partner. Apologies for not making that clear sooner. I did show my wife my original Reddit post and she was very angry with me, so much so it caused a bad fight, and after it I got the silent treatment for another week. I tried to make my kids stop mistreating their mother after the bunny incident, even with being punished by small groundings and timeouts, but the BS nickname kept coming back every time our kids got angry with their mother. My wife let up on her cold shoulder routine after a couple of weeks and conceded she should have listened to me about the bunny and should have taken it to the bushes like I said. She claimed that she just felt like she needed to defend herself because she didn't want to be wrong. I accepted that apology and apologized myself for making the Reddit post. I wanted us to go to marriage counseling, but she refused. She acted like there was nothing wrong with our marriage, and I decided not to push the issue further since things were seemingly getting along better. But after a few weeks, my eldest came to me saying she wanted to tell me something. There was another reason why she was so mad at her mother than just the bunny, but she was scared to tell me. I comforted her and told her she could tell me anything. Well, what she said shocked me and changed everything in an instant. She said that for months, Mama had been bringing a man over some Saturdays I was at work and had referred to him as her special friend. She got our kids to keep quiet about it by various means of bribery. But my eldest realized that something was very wrong with it and spent some time working up the courage to tell me. Kids know things and pick up on stuff very quickly. I really dislike it when people dismiss those facts. I had noticed my wife acting a bit differently lately. She had been more short with everyone, especially the kids. I tried talking to her about it when I showed her my first post, and she just went off on me about any little thing she could think of. Insulted my appearance, my character, my habits, even my side of the family. She even brought up that I used to smoke. I quit over 10 years ago. Then she resorted to locking me out of our bedroom and crying so loud you could hear it all over the house. So when my eldest came to me, I ended up putting 2 and 2 together. She was cheating, and her behavior was very similar to the mood swing she had while pregnant with both of our children. Similar, I say, because it was even worse. From what I've gathered searching online and what friends and even a counselor have told me, my wife was both very moody from hormones and projecting because of her infidelity. I can't claim to be an expert in psychology, but it does seem to make sense. I wanted it to all be a misunderstanding, but I quickly ordered and set up a few hidden cameras without anyone knowing. I had them delivered to my work just so no one at home would see them. Then I set them up on a day my wife went out to have a girls' night with her friends. It was very easy to hook them up and connect them to the Wi-Fi in just a few short hours. I could monitor every part of the house from my home PC, laptop, and work PC. At first, I worried I might have been going overboard. I thought if it turned out I was wrong, then I could remove the cameras and no one would ever know. But no, my worst fears were confirmed as I got plenty of evidence in just the first week. The man my wife has taken as an AP is a former colleague of hers. I remembered him quite well as they seemed close with my wife whenever I met him at various functions. My wife quit her job years ago to be a full-time mom after getting pregnant with our first. It was a mutual decision for us both at the time. My wife stayed connected with her former coworkers as they were her best friends. But not anymore. What I'm about to tell you has pretty much made her hated by everyone. Firstly, the AP is younger than my wife by about a decade. She mentored him at her former job to fill her position when she left, and the two of them stayed close, very close. My wife and I are both over 40, but you wouldn't know it from looking at her. She's positively stunning. She got mistaken for someone in their 20s quite a lot, and I guess she capitalized on that. How I found out, I ended up confiding to my sister about what was going on and showed her the footage from the nanny cams. She told me she'd suspected for a while and said she'd seen my wife once at a local bar getting a bit too close with a man that wasn't me, but they never kissed or anything while she was watching, just lots of touching on the shoulders and lower back. And since she wasn't sure, she didn't tell me sooner. I ended up ordering a GPS tracker as well, and after I got it working, I hid it in the trunk of my wife's car. My sister and her husband agreed to help me and followed the tracker on my wife's next supposed night out with friends. She went to a completely different place 20 miles further away than where she usually goes, and from there, she met up with AP. My sister and brother-in-law observed them for some time from their car and noticed AP kept rubbing her belly while they were talking, and they recorded video of this too. When I saw the footage, I knew she had to be pregnant with his baby since she was so moody at home. My sister and Bill had to calm me down because I turned into a complete mess. I wanted to self-medicate with alcohol, but my sister very correctly told me that drinking was the worst thing I could do at the moment. Later, I decided to take a leave from work, but told my wife I was actually going to be on a business trip. She couldn't have been more excited about it and didn't try very hard to hide her glee that I'd be leaving for a while. Who is this woman? She's certainly not the one I married almost 20 years ago, right? Did someone who looks exactly like her just take her place one day? Is she an alien from the pod people? Did I ever really know her? The more I thought about it, the less it made sense to me. So my end conclusion was that trying to make sense of anything wouldn't do me any good. I had cameras all over the house, and my sister and brother-in-law agreed to take my kids for a few days because they love visiting auntie and uncle in the city. This gave my wife the exact opening she wanted. She called AP only a few hours after I left, and he showed up that evening to spend the night. I won't go into any detail about what they did around the house. You can fill in those details yourselves, but on top of all that, they were joking about me continuously. They openly talked about their baby and how they needed to figure out what to do before her belly starts to show, as she was already over 3 months along by then, and there was no way it could be passed off as mine. AP is a different race from me, so it'd be pretty easy to tell the baby wouldn't be mine from birth. My wife brushed AP's concerns aside and said that they had months to figure it out. Then she shamelessly admitted this wasn't even her first affair, as she'd slept with another man when she was 29. She told AP she was sick of having to act like the good housewife and was tired of being around a boring man like myself that made her feel old. And if it wasn't for me being so financially stable, she'd have left me long ago. Even her AP asked her about what her plan is with our kids. Her exact words were, "He can have them." She didn't even want to be around our kids anymore because she thought they liked me better, and she'd soon be having her do-over baby anyway. I very nearly threw the laptop on the floor in my motel room because I was so disgusted, but I contained myself, drank a few beers from a six-pack, got some dinner at a diner, then watched a movie. After that, I spent half the night just laying in bed and thinking till I finally fell asleep. I thought I knew my wife so well. I loved her and would have given her all I had to give, but in the end, some people are just evil, and you can never really know who they are till they reveal their true self. I made up my mind right then to destroy her in a divorce. I'm normally a very kind and calm man, but get me angry enough, and I can become your worst nightmare. I went to see a law firm for divorce lawyers the very next day and asked for the meanest lawyer they had. I live in an at-fault state, so my wife was screwed the moment I had her affair on camera. The lawyer was initially apprehensive that I wanted to hire him so quickly until I explained the situation in more detail, and I even showed him some of the video footage. That's when he got a devilish grin, and we shook hands. He said he'd start right away because this was the kind of case divorce lawyers love to dig their teeth into. I had my wife served a few weeks later on a day I was working from home, and the kids were in school, the eldest in kindergarten and the youngest in preschool. The papers were delivered right to my wife's hands by the local sheriff. The cameras caught it all. She looked scared while she opened the envelope, read the contents, and then lost her mind. She came running into my office to scream at me, but I remained cool and calm the whole time. I was already completely mentally checked out of our marriage. My wife wanted to argue. I just told her I'd made up my mind, and I wanted her out of my house. I'm the only one who's ever paid into the mortgage. She screamed at me that I can't do this to her and then actually threatened to tell people I beat her if I take her to court and get me fired from my job to boot. I told her to go right ahead and make up any lie she wants. It won't help her. It's not like she wasn't planning on screwing me over since she's pregnant with her AP's baby anyway. She went wide-eyed and asked me how much I knew. I just said I knew enough and told her once again that I wanted her to leave. She refused and said it was as much her house as it was mine. Then she locked herself in the bedroom again. I saw on the bedroom cameras her having a meltdown and then pulling out her phone and calling the police. She was acting like she was in complete panic, but there was a huge smile on her face while she was doing it. She was quite the actress. I'd have believed that performance over the phone in a heartbeat if I didn't already know she was a liar. I waited for the police with the front door wide open and told them to come right in when they arrived. They were initially hot-blooded and ready for a showdown, but the house was clean, and there were no signs of any sort of fight. My wife came running out of the bedroom and grabbed the vest of one of the officers while crying and saying I was a maniac. I asked one of the other officers to let me show them evidence of what was really going on, and he agreed, which really startled my wife as she was not aware that I'd recorded her. I showed the officer the footage from the cameras on a laptop of my wife saying she'd make stuff up to ruin my life, and then the footage from the living room after she ran out of my office and into the master bedroom down the hall, and then the footage from the camera in the bedroom of her calling the police and lying. I'd recorded it all, and from multiple angles no less. And even though she claimed to the police I'd hit her, there was not only no marks on her, but the cameras all around the house showed a completely different story. Then I handed the police a thumb drive and said it had all the video footage they needed of her calling them under false pretenses. My wife, even in the face of all this, stuck to her lie of saying I was an abuser and even tried to say the recordings were illegal and therefore inadmissible, but I pointed out they are legal because they were security cameras inside of my own home and not recorded in public. My wife looked to the police and told them to do something, to which they did. She was the one put in handcuffs, and she started bawling like a child. I could only sit there shaking my head. This was once the woman I'd loved for so many years. I thought she was a wonderful, intelligent, and endearing person. Couldn't have been more wrong. As the police took her away, she screamed that they couldn't do this to her, but didn't fight back much otherwise. Resisting arrest would have been added to her charges. I then shut down all her credit cards that were in my name and stopped any future payments into the joint bank account, so she had to use entirely her own money to bail herself out of jail. She'd saved plenty all those years she was still working while the mortgage was only on me, so she was anything but broke. She came back for her car, which I'd taken the liberty of packing a few of her suitcases full of her clothes and some other things and left the key on the seat, so she wasn't even able to come back into the house. My wife's parents did come to speak to me a day after she bailed herself out of jail. Initially, they only had the backward story she told them, which was basically the same thing she tried to tell the police. Her father especially was ready to attack me. Old as he is, he's big and strong. But when I asked him if he knew anything about my wife's affair or her pregnancy, he looked very surprised and gave me the chance to explain myself. I pulled out the laptop again to show my in-laws what I recorded. When they found out the truth, they were disgusted and said that they couldn't believe this person was their daughter. They apologized to me and said they'd keep in touch to help out with my kids. Then they called my wife on speaker right in front of me and confronted her about her lies. Then they called my wife. She tried to double down till they said they were with me right then and saw the recordings. They knew everything and wanted her out of their house immediately. She tried to backpedal, but my in-laws said they did not raise her to be such a selfish person who would try to frame her own husband, and she was no longer their daughter. They disowned her over the phone right then and there and then hung up before my wife could say anything else. She tried to call back, but they ignored her every attempt. And when they got home, not only was she gone, but she destroyed several things around their house, which my mother-in-law was in tears about. I still consider my ex's parents my in-laws because they still drop by from time to see their grandchildren. But my ex is effectively dead to us all. My wife later came back with her AP to pack her things. AP wouldn't even come in the house, and my wife refused to speak a word to me while gathering her remaining things. She knew there were cameras everywhere, and she'd damn herself more if she tried anything else. I wasn't alone either, as my sister and brother-in-law were there to help keep an eye on her. Brother-in-law made sure to keep his eye on AP from the window. My wife was still packing when the kids got home, and she made no attempt to speak to either of them, not even when our youngest cried for her. Before leaving, she did take a few of the photos we had of each other from our wedding off the wall and threw them on the floor to break them. I think she was expecting a reaction out of me because of the way she looked at me while doing it, but since I didn't say anything, she just took the last of her bags and walked out the door. After she was gone, I had to call my elderly mother to come stay with me for a while because I couldn't take care of my kids alone. I couldn't take a lot of time off work, and I didn't have a lot of daycare options either. I also ordered DNA tests for my kids. I was sure they were mine, but several people told me that just in case. My children are mine. Thankfully, yes, both of my children are mine, and yes, I did get tested for STIs and I'm clean, so no worries there. About a week later, my wife showed back up at my door saying that she would agree to a clean divorce if I did as well, meaning she'd have gotten half of everything if I had agreed, but I said no to her face. There was some fighting back and forth, and she more or less admitted to finding out the law in this state was not on her side. We met, got engaged, got married, and lived our whole lives in this state. There was no way she could get out of taking a major loss unless I agreed to settle, which I did not. Then I said that she betrayed me, our kids, her parents, and practically everyone by having an affair. Then I slammed the door in her face. She left quietly, and I didn't see her again till court a few months later. In divorce court, my wife was visibly quite pregnant by then, and she'd gotten a lawyer. AP was also nowhere to be seen. I expected her to lie to the judge, which she started to a few times, but I had enough video evidence to refute any lies, so she really didn't stand a chance. So instead, she tried to drag out the divorce by simply refusing to cooperate and making various demands. She wanted most of my savings for starters, and she wanted a long list of other things I own, and she wanted me to buy out of her half of the house, even though she never paid into it. On my end, I was pushing for full custody of the kids and to get her name off the house deed. I had the video evidence to back up how she said she didn't really care for our children anymore too, and how she said she would make up lies. My wife tried to stall and repeatedly change her demands, but the judge didn't let her keep dragging things out. This being an at-fault state meant that she was entitled to very little since she was the adulterer, and her attempting to frame me only made her case even worse. She lost all custody of our kids. In the end, she lost all custody of our kids and walked away with nothing more than her belongings. What could be considered a fair financial settlement considering the circumstances, and the car I'd previously bought for her. The title was in my name, but I signed it over without a care as part of the settlement. She'd made no attempts to even speak to our kids during the entire divorce anyway, so I got full custody. The house is entirely mine now, and I'm completely free of her. My now ex-wife did try to keep up with her lies about me to others before and during the divorce, but my sister spread word around of my wife's infidelity, and soon all mutual friends cut her off when they realized who was telling the truth. She and her AP left town together after the divorce ended. I heard AP wasn't fired, but he was transferred where I don't know, but I do know my ex had to go with him. My ex had to go with him. They could have transferred him in my ex to freeze in Greenland for all I care. I'm just happy they've both left. My ex should have had her do-over baby by now, and I hope it was worth it to her. This is not what I thought I'd be posting to Reddit after just talking about my wife releasing a bunny where a hawk could get it, but many of the comments I previously got about how my wife was acting made me realize I should have been paying attention to the red flags long ago. I guess I just kept rose-tinted glasses on for our entire marriage, but it's all over now. Thank you to any readers who made it through this. I know it was a lot to read, but this is my life. Edit. I got my ex's name off the house deed because all bank records that could be dug up showed only I ever paid into it. My ex was also repeatedly argumentative with the judge, and in an at-fault state, being a confirmed cheater puts you in a world of trouble during a divorce. It's comparable to having a signed prep against you. And when I said I got the meanest lawyer at the firm I went to, I meant it. The man was like a bear and a shark. The payout my wife got was 60 grand, and she also got the car I bought new for her a couple of years ago that cost me 50 grand. The car was paid off and I transferred the title to her. My ex was also still offered partial custody of our children, but since the video of her saying she didn't care about them anymore had been seen, She didn't bother to have any custody and willingly relinquished all rights to our kids when she realized she couldn't get her way. And for those who might think the police wouldn't have arrested my ex for lying, think again. The police here don't mess around, and my ex, with a sociopathic grin on her face, tried to frame me as a wife beater. That's plenty grounds for arrest. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Before we start, if you're enjoying this video so far, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Now let's continue. My fiancé called me crazy names. I'm about to cancel the wedding. My fiancé, 28, male, and I, 25, female, went to his coworker's birthday party Saturday night, and everything seemed fine. I arrived 3 hours after he did, and he was already hammered. I don't mind that he drinks, but it seems a little early to be blasted by 6 p.m. when the party was just getting started. By the end of the night, he was an angry drunk and yelled at everyone at the party, including his supervisors who were present. I was mortified to say the least. Yes, I have experienced his angry side, but recently he has gotten angrier and blows up over the simplest things. We finally left the party, and as we were driving home, he began to yell at me. He told me he has PTSD and that no one cares. I replied saying I understand, but I'm not going to discuss it right now while you're inebriated. He kept raising his voice, and I told him that if he didn't calm down, I'd get off the freeway and have him get out of my car. He laughed and started saying, "Good luck getting in my house, B word." I was shocked and proceeded to get off the freeway. Once we were off, I pulled next to a gas station and told him to get out. He got out and proceeded to say some insane insults, calling me names and all. I was so shaken by this whole experience, but at that moment, I felt relief that this was finally over. I could finally end my relationship, and people would understand and not call me crazy. He was super drunk, and this isn't the first time he has had angry outbursts, both drunk and sober. This is the person I'm supposed to marry in 6 months, and now I'm thinking of ending it all. I love this person with all of my heart, but I don't think I can forgive him. His parents don't think he can do anything wrong and justify his every action. They are such good people and they treat me so well, but it's not like they can slap their kid and tell him to realize he's going to ruin his life with these anger problems. For context, his father also has anger problems that I've witnessed before. They do not live in the same state as us, but I've seen how he treats his mom. My dash camera recorded the whole thing. Part of me feels like this is my chance to break free. We have no kids, so there isn't much collateral damage. How do I decide what to do? Can therapy help him? Now on to the next story. Story 3. The guy who's pretty much ignored me my whole life, yeah, he's actually my biological dad. Mind blown. I'm 17, caught in the whirlwind of teenage chaos. And this revelation just added a whole new layer. Picture this. My mom's only 30, and my dad's hitting 40. They were practically kids themselves when they decided to tie the knot. Mom's the heart of our home, juggling part-time work with raising us, while dad's buried in code as a software developer. And then there's me, the eldest of 4, somehow always cast as the outsider, the odd one out. Like I've been wearing an invisible black sheep costume at every family gathering and birthday party I can remember. Growing up feeling sidelined in your own family is one thing, but finding out the man you thought couldn't possibly be your real dad actually is, that's a plot twist I never saw coming. It's like living in a soap opera, except there's no commercial break from this reality. I never experienced the joy of having a single birthday party, no shiny presents or friends coming over. Christmas? Forget about it. While my siblings were drowning in lavish gifts from our dad, uncles and grandparents, bikes, fashion gadgets, you name it, I was handed a pair of socks and told to watch them unwrap their treasures. Their birthdays were extravagant affairs. Friends and family flocked to celebrate them, showering them with more gifts than they could handle. As for me, I was the invisible kid, banned from family trips and vacations. Instead, I was left in the care of strict grandparents who stifled my every move. And worst of all, sometimes they'd just pass me off to someone else, leaving me feeling like an unwanted burden. When I was just 13, my mom started a part-time job, and on those rare occasions when my dad and siblings were away, she'd ask if we could spend some quality time together, even if it was just for a simple ice cream outing at home. I mostly kept to my room, focused on studying, but no matter how well I excelled in school or sports, my dad seemed uninterested. To make ends meet, I tutored and picked up part-time jobs at food courts and a grocery store, which kept me away from home. Over the years, my mental health took a toll from juggling academics, sports, and 2 part-time jobs. Thankfully, my mom helped me find a therapist who has been a tremendous support. However, a shocking incident occurred yesterday when I returned home late from work, utterly exhausted, and overheard a heated argument in the living room between my mom, dad, and aunt, all revolving around me. They noticed me eavesdropping from the doorway, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing, especially my aunt suggesting that I should be more grateful to my dad. My parents' faces turned ashen when my aunt dropped a bombshell. She called me a bastard, and I was taken aback by her audacity. Sure, she never liked me and often ignored my presence, but this was a whole new level of cruelty. I couldn't contain my anger, so I demanded she repeat what she had just said. My dad hastily intervened, but I was insistent. I needed to know why I should be grateful. I prodded further, wanting answers. Silence hung in the air, so I repeated my question. Grateful for what? For being ignored, neglected, and abandoned while my pampered siblings played a picture-perfect family with Dad. But as soon as I mentioned Dad, my aunt exploded, yelling that I wasn't his son. I was stunned and I turned to my dad, desperately seeking the truth. His gaze met mine, and all he managed to say was, "I'm sorry." I was left speechless, turning to my mom hoping for some clarification, but she remained silent. Unable to stay in my room any longer, I left, and as I did, I heard my mom crying. She eventually came to check on me, finding me on the floor, shaken and crying myself. She helped me up and stayed with me until I drifted into a fitful sleep. This morning, I called in sick, still trying to process the shocking revelation that had shattered my world. Today, I've barely left my room. Everything I've ever done to earn the approval of the man I once called Dad feels like a colossal waste of my life. I wish I had known the truth years ago. The top advice before reading the updates is truly shocking. I can't help but feel deep sorrow for you. This secret should never have been kept hidden from you. Understanding their cruel treatment would have been a small consolation. What's more, the fact that your mother allowed this deception is deeply troubling. The questions that arise are haunting. Why did they lie to you? It certainly doesn't sound like they were in North America. Sadly, in many parts of the world, an unwed pregnant woman faces harsh judgment and mistreatment. One can't help but wonder if your mother was pregnant and your stepdad agreed to marry her under certain conditions to provide some protection for her and her child. This is all speculation, of course, and we may never know the full truth. But I genuinely hope you can discuss all of this with your therapist and begin building a life that doesn't include these people who have treated you with such contempt. He truly deserves better. He never chose the circumstances into which he was born. The way they've mistreated you throughout your life is absolutely heartbreaking. I hope your mom will eventually be able to share more about what happened when you're ready to hear it. Saving up and moving away from your stepfather and the toxic family members should be your priority so you can start building a better life for yourself. Remember, your worth and your life are not determined by what these people have called you. I'm deeply sorry for all that you've gone through. Attending therapy sessions and prioritizing your well-being is crucial. Leaving that house and those toxic relatives behind is undoubtedly in your best interest. As for the first update, it's heartening to hear that you reached out to your best friend when you needed it most. Sharing your story with him and having him listen and support you was a significant step. It's evident that he cares deeply about you, and his anger at your family's treatment reflects that. His offer to talk to his parents about you staying at his place is a testament to the strength of your friendship and the support system you have in him. Please consider taking him up on that offer to create a safer and more nurturing environment for yourself. I said yes. He dropped me off and we got out of the car. We talked for a bit, and before he left, he gave me a hug and just said whenever I felt alone that I should give him a call. When I entered the house, I ignored everyone. First, I would like to thank everyone for your comments, though I have not responded. I read through all of them. Not only have they been helpful towards to see things differently, but to do the pastor stays strong until I move out. You're right, this man is not my dad's father, and I will no longer see him like that anymore. I will try and get some answers in why I'm being mistreated, why after all these years no one told me anything. I completely understand your need to discover the identity of your biological father, whether he is alive and whether he's aware of your existence. These questions are undoubtedly crucial for your sense of self and understanding your past. Given your lack of contact with anyone on your mother's side of the family, this journey might involve a lot of research and potentially reaching out to sources who can help you uncover the truth. Your 18th birthday at the end of the summer marks a significant milestone for your journey toward independence and self-discovery. Now for the second update. It seems like you've taken a bold step in addressing your stepfather. You referred to him by his first name, Kevin, instead of Dad. His confusion and silence in response reflect the gravity of your decision. It's evident that you've reached a breaking point, and you rightly questioned why you should call him Dad when he never treated you as such. This confrontation could be a turning point in your relationship with him, and it's essential for your healing and mental well-being to assert your feelings and boundaries. She had no answer, and she told me he was hurt by it. I wanted to scream, which is then that yesterday I had an appointment with my therapist, and I cannot put into words how much she has helped me. Over 2 years later, my best friend called me to let me know that I could stay with them if I wanted. So this morning when I woke up, my mom was already awake and making breakfast. I asked her if we could talk alone today, and it was important. She agreed to talk after breakfast because Kevin had to go to work shortly after. After Kevin left, she told my siblings not to enter the kitchen for a while. I'm paraphrasing a bit because it was a long conversation. Opening up this difficult conversation with my mom was incredibly challenging, as I struggled to find the right words. I finally expressed to her how I couldn't come to terms with the years of mistreatment and neglect by Kevin and his side of the family, all while she stood by and witnessed it happen. I emphasized that understanding why this had occurred was of utmost importance to me. Initially, my mom attempted to evade the question, offering the same vague responses she had given in the past, but I refused to back down, reiterating the significance of this revelation to me. Despite her continued attempts to dodge the issue, I remained resolute. I told her that I couldn't continue living like this. I made it clear that I was planning to pack my things and move out, and that we wouldn't be on speaking terms until she was ready to share the information I desperately needed to hear. Seeing my mom tear up during this conversation was heart-wrenching. Despite the hurt I felt in that moment, I struggled to keep my own emotions in check. I asked her once more for an explanation, and after some time, when she had calmed down, she finally began to reveal what had transpired. When she was 20 and in university, they shared an apartment along with her best friend. They were out clubbing when they had an argument because she wanted to stay, but her boyfriend wanted to go home. It left both her and her best friend really drunk, and she cheated on her boyfriend with his best friend in a club. The next day, she woke up and realized what she had done. After a few days, she courageously confessed to her affair with her best friend to her boyfriend. As a result, he ended their relationship. In addition to this, her boyfriend informed her parents about her infidelity, leading to their furious reaction, cutting off her financial support, and essentially disowning her. Left with no place to turn, she found herself in an incredibly tough situation, even losing many of her friends. With no other options, she was forced to live in her car for a period of time. It was during this trying time that she discovered she was pregnant. Not knowing what to do, she returned to the apartment she had shared with her ex-boyfriend and his best friend, only to find that they had moved out without a trace. Her attempts to contact them through calls and texts went unanswered. Eventually, she managed to secure a job at a coffee house where she met Kevin, a regular customer. As they got to know each other, Kevin asked her out, even though she was upfront about her pregnancy. He was undeterred. However, Kevin's parents did not approve of their relationship, seeing her as both a pregnant woman and a cheater. They even threatened to sever ties with Kevin if he continued to see her. Kevin, fearful of losing his family's support, contemplated breaking up with my mom, but in a desperate plea, she begged him to stay and promise to be the ideal wife and bear his children. They made plans to get married soon after I was born. Kevin never showed any interest in me when I was born, but my mom lived with the hope that one day he would. Hearing all of that, I didn't know what to say for a while. After thinking for a moment, I asked if she had at any point tried to contact my possible biological father. She said no, and a timeline would place her ex-boyfriend as most likely to be my biological father, but you can't be 100% sure. I asked her if she ever tried to reconnect with her side of the family. She tried to contact them when she was about to get married, but her parents, siblings, aunts, and uncles didn't want to see her, so she gave up. I asked my mom why Kevin had been so hurt by me calling him by his first name. She revealed that Kevin had been seeing a therapist for the past 2 years due to ongoing struggles with depression and guilt. I was taken aback when she mentioned that it all began when I was just 15 years old. On that fateful day, I came home after a victorious handball game where I had been awarded the title of Man of the Match. While my mom celebrated my achievement, Kevin couldn't resist the urge to undermine my joy by comparing my accomplishments to others. In my room, I couldn't hold back my tears as I asked him, "Why do you hate me?" His silence left me devastated, and I retreated to my room, crying myself to sleep that night. Following that incident, he began to feel a profound sadness, as if something had pierced his heart, and that feeling never left him. Instead, it grew. My mom eventually encouraged him to seek help from a therapist. Reluctantly, he agreed, and over time, the therapist managed to penetrate the layers of guilt he had been carrying for the past few years. Kevin had been living with the weight of that guilt, too fearful to confront it. So when I called him by his first name, it became painfully evident to him that he had lost me, and that realization took a severe toll on his emotional well-being. The next question is, I was afraid to ask, but I asked if he ever abused her. She told me he has never mistreated her. She told me that Kevin has only ever loved her. The only time he ever questioned her about anything was when she was pregnant with my younger brother, and he asked for a paternity test, which she understood. When it came back positive, he apologized, and he did ask about my other siblings. The last question I asked her was why I was left with people who harmed me physically, mentally, and emotionally while he went on trips and vacations. She was shocked to hear about the physical harm and asked me about it. I told my mom that I never said anything at the time because I was afraid of Kevin's family members. When it happened, I mustered the courage to share everything I could remember with my mom, shedding light on some of the terrible things they had subjected me to in my younger years. My grandparents would yell at me and on occasion even resort to physical punishment. My aunt only spoke to me when she needed a favor, then promptly resumed ignoring my existence. At one point, when I was 14, my father took the family on a 2-day trip to Croatia and left me with his older brother. During this trip, he asked me to go to the store to buy some items. I agreed, of course. However, upon my return, he seized the bags, escorted me out of the house, and left me outside crying until the adults had finished their dinner. Only then did he allow me back in. My mom wept throughout the entire conversation, deeply apologetic for not only being aware of their dislike for me but for realizing that it extended far beyond mere disapproval. As our lengthy conversation unfolded over several hours, I informed her of my intention to move out. When she inquired about my destination, I chose not to disclose it, as I didn't want Kevin to know where I'd be staying. Witnessing my mom cry repeatedly was incredibly painful, but it was a necessary step towards opening up and addressing the issues that had plagued our family for years. Following our discussion, I retreated to my room to collect my thoughts. Approximately an hour later, there was a knock at my door, and I gave permission to enter. To my surprise, it was Kevin who stepped inside. He asked if he could enter, and I said yes. It was the first time since I can remember he ever entered my bedroom. He looked around for a bit, looked at a shelf where I keep all of the awards and trophies from school sports. He was both surprised and sad when he saw the medals from when I did track and field and played football. Then he stopped when his eyes landed on a small Man of the Match award and picked it up. He held it for a while and started to tear up. He put it back and sat down on the bed. Neither of us said anything for a while. I asked if Mom had told him what we had talked about. He was still tearing up and quietly nodded his head. I asked him if he was aware of how I see him. He nodded again and whispered, "Yes. So you know the extent and what your parents and siblings have put me through?" He looked me in the eyes and asked if it was true. I said yes, and he just started falling crying. After a while, he stood up and hugged me. This unexpected moment with Kevin marked the first time he had ever hugged me and openly shed tears in front of me. I embraced him back, my own tears flowing freely. In that vulnerable moment, he expressed heartfelt apologies for the 2 years of neglect, for treating me like an outsider, and he begged me not to move out. When he finally let go, Kevin requested a chance to make amends, and I cautiously agreed, noting that forgiveness could potentially come with time if they proved their sincerity. However, I made it clear that I would never forgive his family for the pain they had inflicted upon me. I also mentioned that for the time being, he would remain Kevin, as the wounds ran deep. For now, I've decided to postpone my plans to move out, but I made it unequivocal that if things regressed to their previous state, I would not hesitate to leave, and he understood this. We've taken the step to see a family therapist together in hopes of addressing and healing the wounds that have plagued our family for so long. Regarding my biological father, I plan to reach out to him in the future, though my feelings about my maternal family remain uncertain. I also confided in my friend, sharing the recent developments. He reassured me that his door would always be open at his place. Our friendship dates back to our school days, and we both share a passion for the same sports team. I was parents well, and they are lovely people. I know many of you want me to move out as soon as possible, but I told them I would like to give them this one chance, and that is what I will do for the moment. Honestly, I'm not scared that things will just go back to how things have been. I've been saving all of my money since I started working. To those who have been sending virtual hugs, here's a virtual hug back. And thank you. Thank you for all the comments and support. Now for the last update. Firstly, I would like to thank all of you who have messaged on the last post and privately. I would like you to know that I am safe and I'm at my friend's house. It's truly heartwarming to hear that your friend and his family are willing to offer you a long-term place to stay. These recent revelations have not only opened my eyes but have also allowed me to see my mom and Kevin for who they truly are. Individuals who don't love me and don't genuinely care about my well-being. Despite my efforts to address the abuse and neglect, asking my mom how she could leave me behind and not take any action, they persistently dodged the questions and prioritized my brother Bobby over acknowledging the need for change. What finally pushed me over the edge was receiving a message this morning questioning how my mom could have failed to notice any signs of abuse when they picked me up after her travels and vacations. It became clear that there was no way someone who supposedly cared for me could have remained oblivious. So this morning, I made the decision to leave. I packed up my belongings, which weren't much, and when I was ready, I reached out to my friend, asking him to pick me up when he could and to call me when he arrived outside. When my friend called me and moved my things out, I let my mom know and Kevin know that I will be moving out. They did not take it well and started to beg me to stay. I told him that I couldn't stay there because it was clear to me that they didn't care about me. Kevin got defensive and tried to say that this was my home, but I should not leave. I asked him why. For these past 2 years when he was in therapy, he has remained the same. How come, even though I tried my best, I was still treated like an outsider? He didn't say anything. I asked my mom why she let this go on for years without doing anything to stop it. Again, she didn't say anything. Saying goodbye to my sister was incredibly tough, as she's the only one in the family who has consistently treated me with genuine kindness and love. Our conversation was emotional, and when I told her I was leaving, she looked profoundly sad. Parting with her was even harder than I had anticipated. Once I got into my best friend's car, I couldn't hold back my tears. We took a drive before reaching his house, which helped me regain my composure. As we settled into a guest room, my friend shared the story with his parents, who asked me to recount everything, and I did. After discussing it privately, they informed me that they would prefer I stayed with them long-term rather than return to my family. I'm grateful for the support I've received from my friend and his amazing family. It's reassuring to know that I have people who genuinely care about my well-being. I appreciate your kind words, and I agree that my family's actions were deeply hurtful. I'm focused on moving forward and building a better life for myself, and I'm now in a safe and supportive environment. As for my mom's family, it's something I'm considering as part of my journey towards self-discovery and healing. It seems off that they have not forgiven her after all these years. She must have done something else. Please take care. A huge hug from a stranger. I'm so sorry and still so happy about the update. I hope you find a safe space with your friend's family. Always remember your friends can be a way better family than your own, and I think that right now you are building a new family. Loads of love. Stay safe and far from your family. They are trash through and through. Never let them bully you into thinking you did anything wrong. Thank you. The only one I will be keeping in contact with is my sister. Last update. Yesterday morning, with the suggestion of my friend's father taking a week off from schoolwork and practice, was a necessary step for my well-being, allowing me some time to process everything. Fortunately, I can access my school assignments online so I won't fall behind. My friend took me to the police station to inform them of my stay with his family and to file a written report about the abuse, both as a precautionary measure and for documentation. Yesterday evening, my mom reached out to see if I would reconsider and return home. However, I made it clear that it wasn't an option, and I requested zero contact with Kevin for safety reasons. She became emotional and tried to persuade me to return through tears. Right now, I'm focusing on my mental health during my last semester, working towards the possibility of attending a good university. When I feel ready, I plan to contact my mom to obtain information about my potential biological father and any contact details she may have for her side of the family. If that doesn't yield results, I'll explore DNA testing sites that have been recommended. Once again, I want to express my gratitude to all of you for your support and encouragement. Your words and actions gave me the strength to make this important decision. Big hugs to all of you. Now on to the next story. Story 4. My girlfriend said an unfair ultimatum. What happens after is ridiculous. Last week, my girlfriend, 25 female, told me 25 male, that she was done and was going to install Tinder by the end of spring break if things didn't change. We've been together 4 years, almost 5. The ultimatum she gave me is that if I don't go through over 300 relationship-focused posts she had shared with me in the past on Instagram and write down 3 things about how each one relates to me and my faults, then she will start using the Tinder app she already installed. I had 4 days to do this. I worked 12-hour shifts every single day and I had a lot to do this weekend. I cleaned our entire messy room and took out the trash, did all the dishes, sorted our dirty clothes by color and folded the laundry. I even went out and ran errands and cooked for us multiple times. I do this stuff pretty much every weekend, maybe minus the laundry sometimes, all while she did an assignment yesterday and took 2 tests that took a couple of hours, but otherwise, over the course of the 4 days, has literally done nothing other than play on her PC. I slept in some days and also stayed up playing PC with an old friend, but this old friend and I just rekindled our friendship after not talking for 2 years. There were times during this 4-day break that I could have focused on the assignment she gave me but didn't. I have just been finding it draining to have to do this while balancing everything else, and I have lacked the motivation to complete it and procrastinated it to hell. I just think this is incredibly unfair and borderline abusive. I don't think my partner should be holding things like this above my head. My 4 shifts start again tomorrow morning and I'm freaking out because I said it would be done by 10 p.m. and it's already 7 p.m. here. Is this abusive? Is this controlling? I asked if we could do therapy before, but this is what she wants. Update. After all of what happened, this is her answer. Hey, don't worry about it. The relationship is over. I put all my cards on the table. You understood the terms. You had more than enough time, but you didn't prioritize it and me in the process. It's not my job to remind you every day. You either do or don't do it. We're over if you don't. You're getting overwhelmed because you didn't realize that this was important for me. I'm not waiting anymore. I love you, but I deserve someone who will treat me with respect, and when a situation gets tough, tense, or you're in the spotlight, you don't. You've shown me how much I matter to you by procrastinating this. I'm done. I don't care. I'm doing this for me. If you're not done by tonight, then don't bother. You might as well prep packing your things. In your long text, you're lying. You told me you'd have it done by 10 p.m. tonight. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be arguing. I already thought days ago that I thought this would happen. I'm sad you didn't change my expectations. Now on to the next story. Story 5. My husband's heir daughter was dropped off at our house 2 weeks ago. My life is falling apart, and it's all thanks to my husband. We had a perfect life. Both of us worked in the jobs we loved. We have a beautiful daughter and a healthy son. When I was pregnant with our son, We both almost died due to complications. So before the birth and even afterward, I didn't want to have sex. Why would I? I almost died, and my body was in pain for months afterward, even with strong medication. I thought my husband understood because he never pushed me for sex or even asked. I thought it was because he understood my pain, but apparently he was just getting it from somewhere else. A few months ago, we were visited by Child Protective Services. I was terrified at first, frantically thinking of what we did wrong with our children to cause a visit. But no, as it turns out, some woman I've never met before died in a car accident, leaving behind a daughter, and my husband's name was on the girl's birth certificate, and he was named in the woman's will as the father. I thought it was a mistake at first until my husband told me the truth. As it turns out, while I was suffering through my pregnancy and the aftereffects of almost dying, my husband would go to a woman he knew at work and get it off with her. He said this as if he did me a favor. Well, as the CPS worker explained to us, my husband is her closest living relative that can care for her. The woman's family apparently wanted nothing to do with the poor little girl. When she asked us if we wanted to take her in, I said yes. Yes, I know this might be the true cause of all my issues, but my husband pawned that poor girl off to live with her single mother for 5 years. He doesn't get to pawn her away when she needs help. She's his responsibility and now is ours. I told him I'll help take care of the necessary visits for wellness checks and help with whatever CPS wants us to do. All he had to do was explain everything to our children. The fact I'm saying this tells you what he did. Yes, nothing. We had to clean out a room and buy new furniture and even looked for some toys. Our children go to a private school, so I picked up some more work hours in order to be able to afford her tuition. I was the one who had to tell our extended families the big change because he didn't want to do so. I did almost all the heavy lifting. So color me shocked when his daughter finally joins our family 2 weeks ago, and the first words out of our children's mouths were, "Who's that?" Yes, I was the one who had to tell our children, school, extended families, family doctors, and my workplace about my husband's affair and subsequent addition to our family, but he couldn't tell our children, being he was too ashamed to face them. So guess who was the one who had to explain that they have a sister now? As I'm trying to settle the poor girl into her new home and room, and shocker, our children didn't take the news well. As it was happening right in front of them, my daughter was screaming while crying, causing my son and the little girl to cry. A situation that could have been avoided if my husband just did the one thing I asked of him and explained everything to them much sooner. It's been 2 weeks of her living with us, and the situation hasn't improved. My husband has not picked up the slack that comes with having a new addition to the family, so we're struggling right now to make ends meet. I feel embarrassed bringing all 3 children around for appointments and groceries because the little girl is very much obviously not mine, and I can tell people are judging our family. My daughter is much moodier and less happy and refuses to even acknowledge our newest addition to the family. Our son doesn't really understand what is going on, and it's causing even him to lash out, and I don't even know how to help the poor little girl because I know that if I feel like my life is falling apart, she must feel even worse. I suggested family therapy, therapy for our children, even just marriage therapy so we can hopefully move past this and work together as a unit for all the children. He's refused everything, saying that he knows he'll be lectured by everyone when all he was doing was trying to help me. I just don't know how to fix this. Please help me. I don't want to divorce him because I just know that will make it worse for the kids. But that's the only option my family is telling me. Meanwhile, his family is begging me to make this work and to just look past it. We'll be looking into therapy for me and the children and hopefully a good divorce. Update. Lawyer update. I'm sorry you all were right. It was a lie. When all of you were pointing out how the kids' responses to youngest's arrival didn't make sense, it made me realize how correct that is. They came home to a room all made up, and I made passing comments to them asking about how excited they were for youngest's arrival. They should have known about her at this point. I decided to just ask my eldest daughter directly because she was still so upset about it, and I think subconsciously knew I wasn't going to get the truth from husband. So I went to her room while she was lying in bed, and I asked her. I told her that I asked her father to explain to the 2 of them what was going to happen. They saw her new room. I talked about her to them, so I don't understand my eldest's reaction. So yes, it turns out husband didn't tell them and then me the truth. A surprise to no one. I am figuring out the story he told the kids was that youngest was a daughter of one of our friends, and we felt so bad we had to take her in. Nothing about her being their half-sister or him having a daughter with another woman. Well, when she came home that day and the kids asked who she was, the pictures we were able to share of young she had braids in and wore much different clothing than when she arrived. It was my response to them that ruined his little lie. This is youngest's name, your half-sister. Remember, our son was too young to really get what it meant. But our daughter did. That's why she freaked out that day, not because of the new addition to the family, but because of what the new addition meant. I apologize for causing her to freak out that day, for not sitting both her and her brother down for a real discussion over how they feel, and to make sure their father did what he was supposed to do, and apologized for only talking to her now after she had a much-deserved reaction to it all. My daughter accepted the apology, and I asked her if that was why she was distant from the youngest. She told me that's part of it, and because word got out at her school about what the newest addition to our family going to the school meant. So now she's getting teased and picked on for having a father who cheated. It broke my heart realizing just how badly I messed up by continuing to beg the spineless man they called a father to help them and then allowing myself to get shut down. I was essentially allowing all the kids' needs to be ignored. I told my daughter I'll sign her and her brother and sister up for therapy. Of course, the pathetic man tried to plead with me not to when I mentioned signing the kids up, but I told him to give it up already. All 3 children's lives have changed, and it will help them adjust with a professional to speak to. He's been grumbling and whining about it, but I don't care anymore, and might cause many to be upset with me, but I'm in the process with husband to have him transfer custody of the youngest to me. I've grown to care for her, and as some comments in my last post have pointed out, once I do divorce him and leave with our kids, I don't doubt he'll treat her awfully or neglect her. He's been right on board, and it took some convincing, but his parents finally agreed to be witnesses. I got all the paperwork set up and scheduled an appointment with an attorney to help with anything else. Once that happens, I'll try to get everything I need in order to have a smoother divorce and then subsequent move to be closer to my family. We have reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us your thoughts about the stories in the comments section. Thank you and see you in the next video.